For a long time, Claude Code Max was my absolute favorite AI coding tool, until it started to feel slower, much more limited, and honestly, just not worth the high cost. So I asked myself a simple question: can I rebuild the core features of Claude Code Max completely for free? So, before we dive into the nuts and bolts of the free alternative I've built, it's crucial to understand what pushed me to look for one in the first place. Let's be clear, this isn't a takedown of Claude Code Max. For a long time, it was my go-to coding assistant, and for good reason. It's a powerful, sophisticated tool that genuinely accelerates development. When it works, it feels like magic. But over the past few months, that magic started to flicker, and some very real-world friction began to creep into my daily workflow. I found myself spending more time working around the tool than with it. This journey started not because I was looking for something cheap, but because I was looking for something better, more reliable, and more aligned with how I want to build software. So, let's break down the good, the bad, and the frustrating parts of my experience. First, the positives. Claude Code Max is genuinely awesome at understanding big code bases. I'm talking about projects with hundreds, even thousands of files, complex interdependencies, and years of legacy code. You can throw a massive, unfamiliar repository at it, and it does an incredible job of building a mental map. It can trace logic from a front-end component through multiple API layers, all the way down to a specific database query. This is its superpower. For onboarding to a new project or trying to debug a deeply nested issue, this capability is invaluable. It saves hours, if not days, of manual code archaeology, letting you ask high-level questions like, where is user authentication handled, and get a precise, context-aware answer that spans the entire stack. Flowing directly from that is its second major strength: keeping context across files and throughout a long conversation. This is where many other tools fall flat. You can have a conversation with Claude about a feature, reference a function in Chi, then discuss a related component in 20 minutes later, and it remembers the entire thread. It doesn't just see the code, it understands the about the code. This allows for a much more natural and iterative development process. You can refine your requests, build on previous suggestions, and treat the AI as a true pair programmer that has been with you from the start of the session, not one that suffers from short-term memory loss every 5 minutes. This contextual awareness is the secret sauce that makes it feel so intelligent. And third, when it's on its A game, it's fantastic at generating pretty high-quality code. I'm not just talking about boilerplate. It can produce nuanced, idiomatic code that often considers edge cases you might have overlooked. It follows project-specific formatting rules, adds comments where appropriate, and can even write unit tests for the code it generates. The output is rarely perfect, no AI's is, but it provides a high-quality starting point that often requires only minor tweaks rather than a complete rewrite. This combination of code-base understanding, context retention, and quality generation is what makes it so compelling. It's a premium experience, but that premium experience comes with some significant and increasingly frequent drawbacks. But lately, I've been hitting 3 major problems. The first and most disruptive is the issue of usage and context limits. I'm constantly running into the dreaded try again later message, often right in the middle of a deep focus coding session. This is incredibly frustrating. You build up momentum, you have the entire problem space loaded in your head, the AI has the context, and then, a brick wall. The flow state is shattered. Even more common is hitting the token wall mid-flow. You're working on a complex refactor, feeding it multiple large files for context, and it simply loses the plot because the input or the conversation history exceeds its token limit. The model starts hallucinating, forgetting earlier instructions or giving generic, unhelpful responses. It forces you to constantly manage and prune the context you're providing, which is a mental tax that defeats the purpose of having a powerful assistant in the first place. The second problem is cost creep. While many of these tools offer a free tier, it's often quite limited. As soon as your usage becomes serious, when you start relying on it for daily work across large projects, you inevitably have to upgrade to a paid plan. And once you cross that threshold, the monthly bill stacks up surprisingly fast. It starts at $20 or $30 a month, but as you use it more, or as new, more powerful models are released at a higher price point, that cost can easily double or triple. It becomes another significant subscription in a world already saturated with them. This isn't just about the absolute dollar amount, it's about the value proposition. When the tool is frequently unavailable due to usage limits, you start to question if you're getting your money's worth. The third, and perhaps most strategic problem is lock-in. When you invest your time and money into a single, closed-source platform, you're basically marrying one provider's model, its pricing structure, and its product roadmap. You are completely dependent on their decisions. If they decide to raise prices, you have to pay. If they decide to deprecate a feature you rely on, you have to adapt. If their model's performance degrades or a competitor releases a vastly superior one, switching is a major hassle. You've built your entire AI-assisted workflow around their specific interface and capabilities. This lack of portability and control is a significant long-term risk. You're not just using a tool, you're tethered to an ecosystem. If you're a student on a tight budget, an indie hacker bootstrapping a new product, or just someone who loves to experiment and tinker with the latest technology, that's not an ideal situation. The friction of usage limits, the anxiety of a rising monthly bill, and the strategic vulnerability of vendor lock-in all work against the spirit of innovation and exploration. It creates a walled garden where you can only play with the toys you're given, under the rules you're given. This realization led me to a fundamental question. What if I could decouple the workflow from the AI model itself? I wanted something that felt more like, I own the workflow, I can swap the brain. I wanted a system where I could choose the best model for the job, whether it's a powerful commercial API, a free-tier endpoint, or even a model running locally on my own machine. I wanted to be in control of my context, my data, and my costs. This desire for sovereignty over my own development process is what ultimately sparked the creation of the free, open-source stack I'm about to show you. Let me translate this into normal language. Opencode. Think of it as an AI router for your coding. Instead of talking directly to one model, you talk to opencode, and it can send your request to different providers, Gemini, Claude, local models, etc. Anti-gravity. This is the layer that makes it feel more like a product. It remembers project context, handles files and folders, gives you a nice interface for, do this change across the repo type tasks. So, Claude Code, Max, Recon, polished, official one-provider stack. My setup, a DIY stack where you own the glue and can swap brains whenever you want. Alright, let's dive into the setup. I want to give you a clear, high-level walkthrough of how this free stack comes together. My goal here isn't to create a 30-minute exhaustive configuration tutorial where we scrutinize every single command line flag. Instead, I want to show you the core concepts and just how accessible this is. You don't need to be a systems architect to get this running. If you're comfortable with a command line and have used Git before, you'll feel right at home. We're going to focus on the what and the why for each step, so you understand how the pieces connect to build this powerful, flexible coding assistant. Think of this as the blueprint. The detailed instructions are all in the project's documentation, which is excellent, but this overview will give you the confidence to get started. The first and most fundamental piece of our stack is opencode. This is the engine, the core backend that will manage the communication with the large language models. To get it, you head over to its GitHub repository. Opencode is an open-source project, which is a massive advantage. It means there's a community behind it, the code is transparent, and it's constantly being improved upon by developers all over the world. You're not locked into a single company's ecosystem. You just clone the repository to your local machine using a standard command. This downloads the entire project, giving you your own copy to work with. Once you have the code, you navigate into the project directory in your terminal and run the installation script. This is typically a single command like or opencode, depending on the project's language. This command reads the project's dependencies, all the other open-source libraries it relies on, and automatically downloads and links them together. It's a standardized process that handles all the heavy lifting for you. On my machine, a fairly standard laptop with a decent internet connection, this entire process from cloning the repo to finishing the install took less than 5 minutes. Your mileage may vary slightly based on your network speed, but it's designed to be a quick and painless setup, not a day-long compilation marathon. With opencode installed, the next step is to give it the credentials to talk to the AI models. This is done using API keys. Think of an API key as a unique password that you give to an application, like opencode, so it can access a service on your behalf, like Google's Gemini. You'll find a configuration file, usually named something like tech or inside the project folder. This is where you'll paste in your keys, Getting them is straightforward. You go to the provider's website like Google AI Studio for Gemini, sign up for a free developer account, and generate a key from your dashboard. The beauty of this system is its modularity. You can plug in keys for Gemini, for Claude's free tier if you have access, or for any other LLM that offers a free or developer tier API. This is the step that truly decouples you from a single provider. Now for the second major component, anti-gravity. If opencode is the engine, anti-gravity is the cockpit. It's the user interface that you'll interact with directly. It provides the chat window, the file management, and the project context awareness that makes the whole system feel like a polished, integrated tool. Anti-gravity is designed to sit right on top of opencode. Its installation is a similarly simple process, often just another one-line command in your terminal. It's a separate, lightweight application whose sole job is to provide a fantastic user experience. Once anti-gravity is installed, you have to tell it where to find the opencode engine we set up earlier. Since you installed opencode locally, it runs as a small server on your own machine. You simply open the anti-gravity settings, and in the back-end configuration, you point it to the local address where opencode is listening, which is usually something like. This one-time setup creates the handshake between the front end and the back end. From this point on, anti-gravity knows how to send your prompts to opencode, and opencode knows how to pass them along to the AI model you've configured. And this brings us to the real magic, the core reason this stack is so powerful. Inside the anti-gravity interface, you get a simple drop-down menu to select your active model. This is where the flexibility truly pays off. Because opencode is acting as a universal translator, you can switch between models effortlessly. Today, you might want to use Gemini for its speed and general-purpose capabilities. Tomorrow, a new free model might be released, and all you have to do is add its API key to your config file and select it from this menu. You don't have to change your workflow, learn a new interface, or migrate your projects. You can experiment and choose the best tool for the job on any given day, without any friction. Before we move on, let's do a very quick tour of the anti-gravity interface itself. It's clean, intuitive, and designed for developers. On the left, you have your project selection panel. This is where you load your codebase, and anti-gravity will index it to provide context to the model. In the center is the main chat window, your primary point of interaction for asking questions and generating code. And on the right, you have a familiar file tree, allowing you to easily view, open, and manage the files within your project. It's all designed to be right where you expect it. When you put it all together, this setup gives me about 80% of the feel and functionality of a premium, all in one tool, like Claude Code Max. You get the core experience of a context-aware AI assistant that understands your entire code base. But what you gain is an immense amount of flexibility and control that proprietary tools simply can't offer. You're not tied to one model, one pricing structure, or one company's roadmap. You are in complete control of your development environment, and it costs you nothing to run. That final 20% is a trade-off I am more than willing to make. Let's see how this actually behaves with real code. I'm going to give both tools the same task: refactor this messy function, add type hints, and write unit tests. Claude Code Max run, show result, comment, quality, speed, context handling. Opencode Plus, anti-gravity run using a free model. Run same task. Is the code quality similar? Did it understand the project structure? How's the speed? Then summarize. In this test, Claude Code Max wins on polish and small UX details, but my free stack is surprisingly close on code quality. Close enough that I'm comfortable using it for day-to-day work, especially when I don't want to think about usage limits. Alright, after 2 intensive weeks of running this free stack side by side with my paid subscription, it's time for the honest verdict. I've pushed both setups through their paces, throwing everything from small script refactoring to complex multi-file feature development at them. My goal wasn't just to see if the free stack, but to understand where it excels, where it stumbles, and ultimately, who it's truly built for. I evaluated them across 4 key pillars: raw performance and code quality, ease of use, and setup friction, long-term reliability, and of course, the all-important cost-to-benefit ratio. So, let's break down the final analysis. First, let's talk about who should drop everything and seriously consider making this switch. This free stack is an absolute game changer if you fall into a few specific categories. The most obvious group is students, indie developers, and bootstrapped founders. When you're operating on a shoestring budget, every single monthly subscription feels like a major expense. The $50 or $60 you save here can be redirected to a server, a domain name, or just keeping the lights on. This stack gives you 90% of the power of a premium tool for literally $0, and that financial freedom is incredibly empowering when you're just starting out. Next, this is for the tinkerers, the customizers, the developers who love to look under the hood and fine-tune their tools. If you get a genuine sense of satisfaction from building your own perfect development environment, you will love this. The setup process isn't just a chore. It's an opportunity to understand how these tools connect and to configure them precisely to your workflow. You can swap out models, tweak prompts, and integrate scripts in a way that closed-source tools would never allow. You're not just a user, you're the architect of your own AI-assisted workflow. Finally, you should switch if you are fundamentally opposed to vendor lock-in. Relying on a single proprietary service like Claude Code Max means you are subject to their pricing changes, their feature deprecations, and their philosophical shifts on what a coding assistant should be. We've already seen how quality can fluctuate. With this open stack, you regain your sovereignty. If a model provider starts charging too much or its performance degrades, you simply point your configuration file to a different endpoint. You are always in control, future-proofing your workflow against the whims of any single corporation. Now, let's be realistic. This stack isn't a silver bullet for everyone. There are very valid reasons to stick with a paid, polished tool like Claude Code Max. The primary reason is if you prioritize immediate frictionless productivity above all else. If you're a professional developer at a large company or a freelancer billing by the hour, your time is quite literally money. The hour you might spend debugging a local configuration issue is an hour of lost billable work or a missed deadline. Paid tools are designed to be appliances. You turn them on, and they just work. That out-of-the-box experience is a feature, and it's one worth paying for. You should also stick with a paid service if you depend on rock-solid stability and official support channels. When you're working on a mission-critical project, you can't afford to have your primary tool go down because a free API tier changed its rate limits or a community-managed package has a new bug. With a paid subscription, you're a customer. You get service-level agreements, a dedicated support team you can contact when things go wrong, and the peace of mind that comes from a professionally maintained and warranted product. That reliability is a form of insurance for your projects. And finally, consider the value of your time versus the cost of the subscription. If a $50 per month tool saves you even just 2 or 3 hours of work over that month, it has already paid for itself, especially if you're a senior developer or consultant. The advanced, deeply integrated features of a premium product are often tuned to save seconds and minutes on common tasks, and that time savings accumulates significantly over the course of a project. If your focus is purely on maximizing your coding output and minimizing cognitive overhead, the subscription fee is a sound business investment. So where does that leave me? My personal setup has evolved into a hybrid model which I believe offers the best of both worlds. For about 80% of my work, which includes personal experiments, building starter kits for new projects, and general-purpose coding on my side hustles, I now default to the free stack. It's more than powerful enough for these tasks, and I genuinely enjoy the flexibility it offers. It's my creative sandbox, where I can try new models and techniques without worrying about a running tab. However, I keep my paid subscription active for that critical 20% of my work. When a client project has a hard, immovable deadline, or when I'm working on a complex, high-stakes feature where any downtime would be catastrophic, I switch back to the paid tool. In those moments, I'm not paying for features. I'm paying for certainty. I need the 100% guaranteed reliability, the optimized performance, and the psychological comfort of knowing I have a support line if I need it. This hybrid approach lets me save money and innovate freely most of the time, while still having a professional-grade safety net when the stakes are highest. If you want me to make a step-by-step setup video where I show every config file and API trick I'm using, drop a comment with the words, "Free Stack." Also tell me, what coding tools are you using right now? Claude, Cursor, Replit, something else. Next, I'm planning to test if this same open, mix-and-match approach can replace some paid AI tools for non-coders too, content creators, analysts, students. So, if that sounds useful, hit subscribe so you don't miss it.